You're listening to a brief excerpt from the Future of Provider Data Exchange, addressing directories, outreach, contracting, and network adequacy through technology, sponsored by LexisNexis Risk Solutions, with Dara Price Olson, Senior Director, Market Planning, and Harry Chitterulu, Software Engineering, LexisNexis Risk Solutions. This webinar discusses the promise and use of new technologies like machine learning, APIs, and blockchain to facilitate the exchange of sharing provider information.
Great. Thank you, Claire, and thank you very much, the participants, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. As Claire kind of outlined, today we're really going to be discussing several technologies, both those that are newer and those that have existed for a while, and really how they're being applied to provider data. I'm sure you've all been hearing a lot of buzzwords, and this webinar today is meant to help you understand really two things: what those technologies and concepts are, and how they're being or could be applied to provider data specifically. So for this group, we didn't want to go too deep into technical details, but because some of the latest technologies require more explanation, I'll be covering the basic concepts, and Hari from our engineering organization will be speaking to some of the newer, more technical concepts. But again, this is all meant to be in layman's terms and geared more toward a business audience rather than being a technical deep dive.
So we think provider data fits in very well with blockchain technology. We think because of the following reasons. So data protection regulations. So provider data being publicly available and is not personal in nature, that is not PII or PHI, would not have the concerns with regulations like GDPR, a regulation passed in Europe that, for example, requires the ability for an individual to request right to be forgotten. So you wouldn't have to worry about those kind of regulations when it comes to provider data. Large number of contributors, so providers, payers, data aggregators like LexisNexis, we all could initiate data change transactions on blockchain network. Large number of consumers, so payers for provider directories, claims processing systems, eligibility verification systems. So there are many different consumers for this data. Data governance. So data governance is still required even though we're using blockchain technology. That in itself is not going to solve that problem. So provider data change transactions need data governance from industry-leading provider data aggregators like LexisNexis and our master provider referential data to ensure that high quality of provider data resides in the blockchain's ledger. Transaction volumes. So number of transactions on provider directory space would fit in easily with today's blockchain technology and its scalability. Example would be measuring transactions per day when it comes to provider data changes versus transactions per second, say in Bitcoin or Ethereum. So lastly, we are involved in several pilots in the industry, and we're exploring other partnership opportunities to see where the blockchain technology can be applied in the healthcare industry.
Okay, thank you, Hari. So let's just pause for another poll, right, to kind of see how people feel about their own provider data management and data exchange strategies. So how confident are you in your provider data management and exchange strategy? Not at all confident, somewhat confident, or very confident? Okay, we're going to go ahead. It looks like responses are trickling now. So here's what people are saying. We have about 16% that aren't confident at all, 71% that are somewhat confident, and then 13% that are saying they're very confident. This is about actually what I would expect. I think that people who are saying they're somewhat confident know that they have really strong parts of their program, and then other parts of their program that they're continuing to work on. So thank you for your responses there.
You've been listening to a brief excerpt from The Future of Provider Data Exchange, addressing directories, outreach, contracting, and network adequacy through technology, sponsored by LexisNexis Risk Solutions, recorded on August 15, 2018. The full interactive webinar with audience polling and Q&A discussions explores the myths and truths associated with emerging technologies, how these technologies are being applied to provider data specifically, and how they may address the provider data exchange and maintenance challenges we're experiencing today. Feedback from the live webinar audience included accolades such as very well put together and presented, great presentation, and I learned a lot. You'll want to be sure to watch the full 1-hour webinar video. To do so, use the link to the full video, which also appears now on your screen. Thanks again for previewing this session, and we do hope you will join us for the full 1-hour video using the link provided.